Alright, I'm Fenrist. I'm a lifer in Star Trek Online. Been playing Star Trek since shortly after launch, just due to not being able to buy a lifetime subscription. I've been playing games forever.
Hello and welcome everyone to another MMO Anthropology interview. I, of course, am your host Amarist, and I'm here in Star Trek Online with Captain Fenrist. We're on an Anorak's bridge.
Hi, everybody.
And there's a cat here. What kind of... is that Spot?
I think it is supposed to be. It's the orange tabby pet. It was a giveaway from Star Trek a little while ago.
If I recall correctly, Spot, Data's cat, was also an orange tabby.
And somehow survived the destruction of the Enterprise D.
Had a little cat environmental box with shields.
Oh yeah. Structurally reinforced.
To start this interview off, I'm curious, why did you choose this location for the interview?
I really like unique bridges in the game. I wish the interiors of the ships got more use, but we'll see how that happens. But I really like time ships in general and how they're used in Star Trek, and especially in Star Trek Online. The Mobius Temporal Destroyer, the Wells time ship, the Krenim Temporal Dreadnought was incredible, and I love the idea of using time as a weapon. And I think it's just ridiculously crazy that we have we fly around in a giant time gun that can literally erase anything from the timeline.
I know you spoke to this a little bit, but there was something you said in that I'm really interested for you to elaborate on, and that's how are time ships used in Star Trek Online? Like, for example, how are you using time as a weapon?
So with the Krenim Anorak's Temporal Science Dreadnought that I'm flying right now, that you're on the bridge of, how they use time effects in Star Trek Online is really neat. The Wells time ship, or the U.S. Relativity from Star Trek Voyager that we saw, it has an ability called, what is it, temporal backstep. It creates a sphere around the ship and becomes immune to damage, and then rewinds like 13 seconds into the past. It's a nod to Galaxy Quest and the super weapon from that movie, and it looks really neat. And then the Mobius, which is the Dark Mirror Universe version of the Wells time ship, which is just ridiculous. Like, using a time ship as a destroyer is insane. It is able to create two duplicates of itself, one from the future and one from the past, and they will phase in and help you attack targets while making you more resistant to damage. And then if you have both of these ships, you can equip both of their weapons, both of their special abilities, on any other time ship, including this Krenim Temporal Dreadnought, and allows you to use both of the abilities. It also boosts the temporal backstep ability, so that when you hit the time rewind button, all the enemy ships around you are also frozen in time. And it's fantastic for PvP because it annoys people, and it's hilarious. So yeah, and it's great, and it's really neat. And because this time ship can actually equip those, it can use its own time abilities as well. And this one's got, let's see, which one was it again? There we go. This thing has the Temporal Distortion Field. It gives me a buff to exotic damage abilities like Gravity Wells. But it also allows me to create a Temporal Distortion Field that makes me turn really fast, move really fast, I take less energy damage. I basically get a 300% buff to my speed, turn rate, and I'm immune to everything. And when the effect wears off, it creates a massive shockwave of anti-proton damage. And anyone around me takes a stun, and it reduces my cooldowns on abilities, I believe. Excellent. And it's pretty powerful.
Do you happen to have any experience with other MMOs?
Yeah, I've been playing games for a long time. I was never really big into MMOs just because there were none that I really found appealing. I used to play Ultima Online, World of Warcraft, Lineage 2 is a big one, Ragnarok Online, World of Warcraft for a while.
Yeah.
Didn't really like WoW very much. and a whole bunch of weird random Korean MMOs like Terra and several other weird ones, just to try to find one.
How would you say that they compare to Star Trek Online?
Star Trek Online, I think, is exactly the kind of MMO I had wished I had a long time ago. And I mean, now the game's almost 6 years old. It's still pretty much my go-to game for everything. It's got Star Trek, which is, of course, the only Star Trek we're getting now these days, except for the new Paramount movies,
right?
Which are enjoyable, but they're not really what I want. And it gives us new adventures. It's got the voice, like all the actors from the shows that come in and do voice work for the stories, and the stories are really good. It carries the storyline forward. It lets me fly all the ships I want to fly, all the cool stuff from the shows. But because you make your own character and you make your own bridge crew, you actually can create your own story within Star Trek and have your own adventures. And it's awesome being able just to nerd out with all the other Star Trek players and fly ships that are from the shows. It's really cool.
Well, speaking of bridge crew, is there anyone on your crew that you could introduce to us or tell us a little bit about? I mean, you mentioned to me before the interview that you had spent some time on them, so I'm really curious on about what you did to make a bridge crew.
Well, the bridge crew I've got in this room, they're not my mains. They were just the ones I had equipped for this loadout when I quickly brought us over here.
Okay.
But there's one in particular who is Bill, and he is my liberated Borg science officer that I acquired several years ago.
And you named him Bill.
Oh yeah, he's Bill the Borg. And
okay.
He's an asshole. He is an asshole. Bill is a jerk. No one likes Bill. He smells funny. He was upset that we liberated him.
Oh.
And he never bathes. He says the nanoprobes suffice, which is not true at all. And he deserves a kick in the nuts. But since he's Borg, and he was never non-Borg, he was born within the collective. The Borg actually do that. And he just doesn't care about anybody. But he's quite powerful, and he's terrifying when you're going on some new away mission to make first contact, and you bring him along, and it's like, oh my god, and you're like, oh no, he's cool. Well, he's not really cool, but we just bring him along because he's powerful.
Right.
Yeah, and he's a dick. We don't like Bill.
Well, what do you do in a regular day in Star Trek Online?
So there's a lot of daily stuff to do, but I just find these days, since I've done everything I want to do for like the reputation projects. I've got the ships I want. I've crafted my gear and leveled everything I want to do. But it's a testament to the game's quality that even though I don't really have anything else to do to further progress my character, I still love logging in and just flying around and seeing other people's characters. Sometimes you can go to Deep Space Nine. Usually every Saturday on Deep Space Nine in Quark's Bar, there are role players happening. Yep. And it's fun just to sit there at Quark's Bar and just watch their conversations. I mean, it might sound a little creepy, but it's just like being a fly on the wall to watch these conversations of these people that have put a lot of time and effort into establishing their own storylines within the MMO. And I mean, honestly, that's what MMOs were supposed to be, is a massive online role-playing game.
Yep.
And these people are doing that.
Yeah. And
it's incredible. And it's really neat.
Well, not only that, they are kind of a public performance.
Indeed. And I've built a record for my character as well. I don't know if you click on my name, you can see the info tab on my name, you'll see it.
Yeah, I've got the HUD off, but I can turn it on so that I can show anybody watching. Info, there it is.
Yeah.
Yep. For a moment I was like, biography empty, but no, a biography appeared. Fleet Admiral Fenrist of the Sorat Nalian. Wow, I don't know what species that is.
I made it up.
Oh, okay, good enough. Native of a lower realm of subspace. That's brilliant. Only survivor. It goes on for quite a bit, and includes your Anoraks.
Dang right. So the Anoraks I'm flying right now, this Temporal Crenum Dreadnought, is actually the ISS Anoraks. So this one is actually from the Mirror Universe, because the Prime universe that we're in, Anoraks, is already in use by other people.
Yes.
So this is a way I can justify in the story, is why when I'm in a mission with the other Anoraks, why mine is actually there too.
Right.
And it's I was like, oh, that's cool.
Because you're from an alternate universe, which kind of makes sense if you're in a time ship.
I'm from this universe. The Anorax I'm flying was stolen.
Oh, you took it from an alternate universe, which still makes sense.
Yeah, it's Section 31. They're evil.
Yes. How would you say that you use MMO games differently than you do other forms of entertainment, such as movies or television shows?
So, for television shows, because of how TV's changed, like how we watch TV's changed. When I watch TV shows, I'm usually watching TV shows with someone. Usually, my wife will sit down with Netflix, and we'll pick a show and we'll watch it. Right now, we're going through the entire X-Files series. Oh. And it's actually held up surprisingly well. And we'll just pick a show and we'll watch it together. And then with movies, it's more like, rather than just like saying, oh, what's on the movie theaters right now? Now we actually, I think everyone does this. We watch a lot of trailers. We read all about it. We check massive reviews before we go. And then if we're absolutely sure we still want to see this movie, then we go to the theater. But we always try to make it a big deal. We always invite like 9 people to go with us. And it's supposed to be a shared experience, right? Mm-hmm. So it's pretty good. It's different with games. It's more just like I'll sit down, play with some of the people I know online, and go from there.
So you would say that you find gaming or MMO gaming to be a bit more of a casual social experience for you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. I don't have the time in my life to
hardcore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is I'm okay with, really.
Yeah. Speaking of, do you happen to have a fleet in Star Trek Online?
Yes, I am actually part of the Priority 1 podcast fleet.
Oh, and of course, how did you end up in the Priority 1 podcast fleet?
I actually ran into, they used to post the podcast on the subreddit for Star Trek Online, and I used to really enjoy listening to it. It was great. And then I found out that they had a fleet. So I was like, oh, well, I kind of need a new fleet. The fleet I was in was quite massive, and they had unlocked everything, and it was great, but I just wanted something that was a bit more involved. Mm-hmm. So I began like commenting and posting back and forth with the Priority 1 podcast guys, and I was like, oh, I'll just join these guys' fleet. And then we've done that. The fleet starbase is almost maxed out, and the podcast is still going, and I listen to it on a weekly basis, and it's really fun being able to interact with those guys. They're quite nice, and they have a lot of good contacts with Cryptic, the company that makes Star Trek Online, and it's neat getting that kind of insight there.
Oh.
And, yeah, it's really cool, and they're really friendly.
What would you say the temperature of Star Trek Online's community is?
Temperature?
Yeah, like, are they hot? Are they cold? Is it hostile? Do you find people mostly friendly?
The people, I think the game overall is really healthy. There's always new players running around. There's always people asking for advice, which is how you know they're new. I mean, the game is 6 years old just about now. The anniversary is coming up, as long as the 50th for Star Trek, which is insane.
Right.
I think the temperature's hot. The game keeps getting bigger. It certainly keeps getting better, as the game was in a rough state when it first launched. It had the bare bones of a good, enjoyable Star Trek game, but there was really nothing outside of the fact that you get to fly Star Trek spaceships that would draw anyone in.
Yeah.
And the game has grown so much, so hopefully I want to see if we get more Star Trek alumni actors in. That'd be always great. So with the new Star Trek movie coming out, new series coming out, hopefully it'll make more buzz for the game and we'll get way more players. And
right.
More players means more money, which means more stuff to do.
And definitely having more stuff to do makes the game a more interesting experience, especially for someone who keeps coming back after you've completed essentially everything you set out to do. All right, we're on to the last questions of the interview, which is, what is your favorite or most memorable experience that's happened to you in an MMO game?
I have a couple. My first real MMO experience was Ultima Online, and I was playing it with a roommate, and I'd never really kind of had any experience with MMOs at all. I mean, I'd played StarCraft and Half-Life and whatnot, but he was a big Ultima Online player, so I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll try this out. So he's like, yeah, just kill some rabbits. I think I told you about this earlier. I was like, oh, maybe let's kill some rabbits and stuff with my wooden stick of a sword. So I decided to attack a cow, because I'm like, I can kill a cow. That's no problem. And I couldn't kill the cow. The cow kicked my ass.
The cow ended up not being a rabbit.
Yeah, and the cow ended up chasing me across 3 islands. and was unable to. I couldn't get away from the cow because the cow could open doors. And I was like, "What is happening right now? How is this cow killing me?" So then that was that. I was like, "Okay, we'll take a little break from Ultima for a while." And then several years later, another roommate of mine was big into Lineage 2, which, for those that don't know, is a massive Korean PvP-centric MMO. It's massive, like really fun though. And there's these special items you can get in the game called soul shots, and basically they're one-shot burn items that you put in your inventory to boost every single attack you have. So there's only one race that can craft these things, and they can only be crafted. So I had access to the guild bank, and I basically was like, well, I'm kind of low level, I'm not really helping the guild much, but I'm gonna basically get as many of these soul shots as I can to just help everyone out. I ended up buying all the soul shots available on the server, and I don't quite understand how I was able to do that, but basically it screwed up the economy on the server because no one else could get them.
Uh-oh.
And it ended up giving our guild a massive advantage in everything because we did way more damage than everybody. And it was, I didn't realize the far-reaching consequences of screwing up the economy like that. It was pretty interesting.
Economies are very precious to MMOs, especially economies that are more player-driven.
Yeah, it was interesting for sure. It was a free server I used to play on. And then the most incredible thing I think I've had in Star Trek Online was when the game first launched, PvP was actually pretty healthy. I mean, there was a lot of broken mechanics still because it wasn't particularly balanced. Everyone remembers the Viral Matrix days.
Yes.
But it was my first kind of PvP experience. I was jumping in, I was flying my Miranda, it's a starter class ship, and I was fighting this guy in a Negvar. And then I was getting just wrecked. So I realized I had the ability to ramming speed. This is before they nerfed ramming speed. Mm-hmm. And so I go full impulse at this guy, maximum speed, flying at this guy. He's just tearing me to shreds. And at the last moment, I hit ramming speed. I smack right into him and one-shot him. And he just blew up, and he was swearing for a good 10 minutes at me.
Especially because you just hit what was one of the top-tier ships with the ship you start with, and it made him explode.
It was the only thing I could do, and it was so perfect. He was so mad. Actually, there's a science officer over behind me named Aline. She was actually my science officer at that time. She's I think one of the only original boffs I still have. And I kept her for pure nostalgia.
Yeah, this critter here with the science armor and the weird little Tron legs.
No, that's my Krenim one. The one directly behind me.
Oh, okay, blue. Yeah, that's science. All right.
Bio for her. No, I don't think I have a bio for her. Dang it! I need to give her a bio. But yeah, oh man, it was perfect. And then I stopped playing PvP for a while because I realized I needed a better ship. But yeah, it was so good.
Well, that's all the time I've got for this interview today. I want to thank Fenrist for coming along with me and speaking about his experience in Star Trek Online.
Thank you. This was great.
Absolutely. I, of course, have been your host, Amarist, and this has been Star Trek Online. Thanks, everyone, for tuning into this MMO Anthropology interview, and we will see you on the other side. Good night and good dreams.
Do you play online games? Do you have Skype? Then we'd love to interview you on Massive Online Anthropology. Join the fascinating thousands who've spoken about their online gaming experience and be the envy of all your friends. Or at least get the MMO Anthropology Geek Merit Badge. Sorry, no t-shirt. See you then!